Alright, hello and welcome to Dominaria United, top 5 legendary creatures for standard brawl. This is Mr. Pisto Plays, and at the beginning of each set, I usually do a top 5 creatures, legendary creatures for the standard brawl format that I really think are going to be cool to play, fun to play. They may not necessarily be the best to play, but for me personally, they're going to be the ones that I have the most fun with. Question before we get in. What creature or legendary permanent planeswalker do you think is going to be the most fun for you to play in standard? I know the standard format's rotating, so the card pool is going to be a lot smaller, which makes standard brawl a little, I guess, easier to build, but maybe not as interesting to build. But still, we're going to be doing some Dominaria United standard brawl when the format comes out in a few days. So before we get into it, like, subscribe, notify. There is a link to a Patreon that I've created where you can support the channel, get a call out, and then I'm going to be thinking about other tiers in the future. But for right now, like, subscribe, notify. Let's get into my top 5 legendary creatures in the standard brawl format. Before we do that, though, we have some honorable mentions. I have 3 of them. Joda the Unifier. If I was playing Paper Magic right now, specifically Commander, I have a 5-color legendary creature. I actually collect a lot of the legendary creatures. So Joda Unifier would be one of those ones that I'd be super excited for. Another 5-card color commander for Brawl. It's going to be an interesting one to build in Historic for sure. Liliana the Veil, I think it's going to be an interesting mono black commander. I didn't put it in my top 5 because I'm not super interested in playing it myself, but I know other people might be. And then a Johnny Sleeper Agent, having the Phyrexian mana again in the completed thing. I think it's going to be another interesting and cool commander to have some fun with, but didn't quite crack my top 5. So number 5, we are going to start with Balmor, Battle Mage Captain, a 2-mana 1/3 flyer, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain trample until the end of turn. This is really cool. Kind of very much an is it aggro style of deck. Usually I put 6 cards in this reviews, but I'm going to put 5, and they're all going to come from the new set this time. So the first card I'm thinking about is Gel, the Storm Runner, 5/4 for 5 mana. It makes it so you can cast your sorcery spells at instant speed, which is really cool. And when it attacks, you can pay 2 colorless to copy the next instant or sorcery spell you cast. So that'll be really synergistic with some of your like 1 and 2 mana spells, like we're going to see here with some of the other cards. Show Up is one of those. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains hexproof until the end of turn. You can totally tap it. So it can be an attacking spell, but it can also be a spell where you can play defense. And with Nigel, if you're attacking and you pay 2, you can do it twice, which is cool. Impulse is in standard. Again, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them in your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So there again, if you're attacking with Balmor Battle Mage, you can impulse to find something maybe to play again. So that's a really cool, powerful draw / card choice spell. Aether Channeler is one of the cool creatures I think that Blue got. 3 mana 2/1, and it can either create a 1/1, which can make it so that you can attack with more creatures with Balmor, return a target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. You can get something out of the way, or if you just need to draw a card in the late game, it does a whole bunch for 3 mana. Haughty Jin, 3 mana, star 4, where its power and toughness equal the number of instants and sorcery spells in your graveyard, and instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So it makes your tricks deal or give it +2/+0 because of Balmor's ability during combat, and it just makes it so you can cast more things. So I think this is going to be a cool Pokini deck, maybe. Electrostatic Infantry, here's another one of those cards that gets bigger when you cast instants and sorceries, and when you have Balmor out. It already has trample, but giving it an extra power every time you cast it with Balmor out, it's very cool. And Lightning Strike is back in standard, which is quite nice. 2 mana for 3 damage to any target, which also spreads +1/+0 to all your creatures. So these are cards that I'm going to kind of look at when I start building Balmor Battle Mage Captain. All right, number 4 is Tori de Avant, Fury Rider. Here's another aggressive deck 4 mana, 3/3 vigilance and trample, and when it attacks, all other attacking creatures get +1/+1. So another kind of anthem effect till the end of turn. And then if red creatures gain trample, white creatures you get to untap other white creatures. So we're going to try and play a lot of multicolored spells in this deck. There are a lot of multicolored stuff in previous sets. This set, not so many, but there's one that I kind of picked out here with Braid Argravian Recruiter, 2 mana, 2/2. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power greater than its base power, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. It plays quite nicely with Tori, because Tori gives all your creatures +1/+1. Its base power would be a 2/2. At the combat, it's a 3/3, and then you get that 1/1 at the end of turn. It's also just an easy card to play at the beginning. Heirloom Battle Hymn, 3 mana or 4 damage, an instant speed to a creature or a planeswalker, and if you pay 4 mana with a white kicker, you get to gain 4 life. So it can help you swing a race. It can get something out of the way. Just a good, I think, removal spell for the format. Guardian of New Benelia, 2 mana, 2/2 with this new enlist mechanic. When it attacks, if you tap a creature that does not have summoning sickness, so you can't like cast a creature spell, attack, and then enlist and tap that creature you just cast. It has to be able to attack too. So this is if you want to like attack into something bigger, but you have 2 small creatures, you could attack with Guardian of New Benelia, tap your 2/2 to make this a 4/2. It scries 2 when it enters when it enlists, you get to scry 2, so it helps you set up your draws, and you can also discard a card to give it indestructible and then tap it. If you're in combat and you use its discard a card to give it indestructible, it's already tapped, so you don't have to worry about that. So get another good 2-drop. Citizen's Arrest. There's 3 cards in the slot. Citizen's Arrest, this one exiles a creature or a planeswalker. Prayer of the Binding, 4 mana. When it enters the battlefield, exile below 1 target non-land permanent an opponent controls until this leaves the battlefield and you gain 2 life. And they gave white 3 exile enchantments with Leyline of Binding. This one is 6 mana but has Domain. So first instance of Domain. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each basic land type among lands you control. So in this deck, it will be swamps and plains. So this will cost at most 6, at a minimum 4, and it does something very similar to Prayer of Binding. This one is all non-land. You exile a non-land permanent an opponent controls until this leaves the battlefield. Have Garna, Blood Fist of Keld, another aggressive commander. This is a 4 mana 4/3, and whenever another creature you control dies, draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, Garna, Blood Fist of Keld deals 1 damage to each opponent. So we have Jaya Fury Navigator. I wanted to talk about her. She's going to go into the deck we talked about earlier, Tori d'Avant, but also goes in a deck like this because +1 gives you a red monk creature with prowess. So when you cast instants or sorceries or non-creature spells, I believe it gets +1/+1. -1, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them. You may play that card this turn, so it gives you some super card draw. -2, choose target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you attack this turn, Jaya Fury Navigator deals damage equal to the number of attacking creatures to that creature. So Garna, here again, we're probably going to try to go wide. So that -2 is a big one. -8, you get an emblem. Whenever you cast a red instant or sorcery spell, copy it twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. So this is also going to play Lightning Strike and the other red burn spells. So the deck is well suited to, will be well suited to play a Jaya Fury Navigator. Phyrexian Vivisector, 2 mana 2/2, and when a creature dies, you scry 1. So this is going to be very powerful. When you're attacking with a whole bunch of little things and you're getting them in to die to draw cards, scry cards, very synergistic with what we're trying to do. Bone Splinters, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, destroy target creature. So Jaya makes 1/1s. We're hoping to go wide with some other tokens, probably a lot of devil tokens with things like Obnixilis, and being able to sacrifice one of those tokens to destroy a creature, trigger Garna. There's a whole bunch of stuff happens, and I think it's a good synergistic card for a deck like this. Shieldred, the Apocalypse. The deck is trying to just aggro them out. So you gaining life when you draw cards, and you opponent losing life when they draw cards helps widen the gap between you killing them and you also stabilizing yourself to survive into the late game if you have to. We have Defiler of Instinct. This is another one of those Defilers. This time the red spells you can pay 2 life for instead of the red mana symbols for permanents. And whenever a red permanent enters the battlefield, this deals 1 damage to any target. So there again, with Garna, we're trying to burn them out. The Defiler of Instincts helps us burn them out. The last card is Lagamus, Hand of Hatred, 3 mana, 1/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 2/1 red elemental creature token. Plays with Defiler. Oh no, it doesn't, because Defiler is upon cast. Never mind. But it does play with our Garna, because at the end of the turn, you have to sacrifice it so it dies. And because it's no longer attacking, it deals 1 damage. You can search your library for a card, put it into your hand, and then shuffle, activate only if 5 or more creatures died this turn. Excuse me. So I don't know how often that's going to be, but getting a 2/1 and just attacking with it, unless they have something that's lifelink, then you just don't attack with it. It dies. You ping them for 1 with Garna. I think there's some really cool synergistic style of decks in this format. All right, number 2. Second to last commander is Nemet Primeval Warden. 4 mana, 3/4, reach. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. That's a very powerful thing to be in green deck, specifically green-black. There's so many ways to kill things, so many removal spells. And when you do, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. You can sacrifice a sapling that gives this creature +1/+2/+2 until the end of turn, or you can pay 2 a black and a colorless, sacrifice 2 saplings, and draw a card. So the deck is going to play a lot of removal spells. I don't think there are any saplings actually in the format right now. I could be wrong. I've looked through the spoilers, but I couldn't see one. So it's really going to be playing with itself. So we're going to get into a few cards for this. Tear Asunder, I think, is going to be another mainstay in black-green decks because you need the black part in order to pay the kicker. Exile target artifact or enchantment. If this spell was kicked, exile target non-land permanent instead. Early game enchantment removal, late game you can remove anything, and it's exiled. It's not just destroyed. So these artifact and enchantment hate just keeps getting better. Silverback Elder, this card is insane. 5 mana, 5/7. The stats are through the roof. Sure, it has 3 green mana symbols, but that's not too hard. Destroy target artifact or enchantment whenever you cast a creature spell. Next spell after this, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from one room on the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, or you get to gain 4 life. So this can get one of your creatures out of one of those arrest type spells that there are 3 of in white in this set. You can ramp yourself if you're behind your gaining life. You also have a giant blocker. A Defiler of Vigor here is the green Defiler. This one makes it so that you can pay, for example, Silverback, you could pay 6 life and 2 any mana to cast this after the Defiler of Vigor is out. Whenever you cast a green permanent spell, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So this was Boring Flex. It's going to be insane. But the Defiler of Vigor is a very powerful 5-drop. The 5 drops in green specifically is quite bottleneck now. We have Landward Loam Speaker, 2 mana, 1/3, taps add 1 mana of any color, going to be a mainstay in any green-based deck. And then you can make a land, a 3/3 elemental creature token with haste until the end of turn. Still land, activate only as a sorcery, so you can't do this for blockers. But if you need that 3 extra points of damage, or 2 I should say, because the Loam Speaker is a 1/3, you can get that in. Phyrexian Rager is going to be just a good value creatures, a 3 mana 2/2. When there's the battlefield, you draw a card and you lose life. Just a good early roadblock before we can get into Nemata or any really commander in the black colors. And then we have Extinguish the Light. This is a new instant, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Mana value is 3 or less, you gain 3 life, so it's a little bit of life gain. but can also get something out of the way. And our final card. Can anybody guess? I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, my favorite commander from the set is Ratabrick of Urborg. I love playing legendary creatures base decks. And green, white, and black are my 3 favorite colors. So it makes sense that this is one of the cards that I think is really cool. It's a 4 mana 3/3. It has Vigilance and Ward 2. So it's quite difficult to deal with early game. Other zombies you control have Vigilance. So we're going to be playing a lot of zombies, but also whenever another legendary creature you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary and it's a 2/2 black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. So this is going to be Orzhov legendaries, I guess you could say. And there are 3 really good legendary creatures in black specifically, and 2, I guess, black, white, 2 of them and 1 mono black. So we have Aaron Benalia's Rune, 3 mana 3/3. It has Menace, and you can pay a white and a black to sacrifice another creature, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So you can use this to sacrifice your other legendary creatures if they have good enter the battlefield effects. The legendary creature goes to the graveyard, which is really cool that you don't have to actually exile it like a lot of these kind of effects have been doing recently when you're getting tokens. So your legend goes to the battlefield, goes to the graveyard, you get a token of it, and then you could play reanimation spells to bring it back, because the token that's a copy of it is no longer legendary. And this makes it so that you can get those creatures in the graveyard and also make your other creatures much more powerful. And then Elis Core Sadistic Pilgrim is a 2 mana 2/2. It has Death Touch, so it's going to trade with anything. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So Aaron, Elish, and Ratabrick play very, very nicely together. And they go really, really well also with Braids. Arisen Nightmare, 3 mana 3/3. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. So if you have Ratabrick out, you can exile or you can sacrifice any one of your legendary creatures, get a copy of it. The legendary goes to the graveyard, and you can do this for a whole bunch of things, but still have that legendary creature and its abilities out there. So those are 3 really cool legendaries that play really, really neatly with Ratabrick of Urborg. And then we have a few kind of other role players. We have the Defiler of Flesh, the Black Defiler. This one, you can pay life instead of the black. And whenever you cast a black permanent spell, target creature you control gets +1/+1. And it gains Menace until the end of turn. So 4 mana 4/4. So its stats are really good. The Cruelty of Gix. This is really cool. So they had made this mechanic on Sagas called Read Ahead. Choose a chapter and start with that many lore counters. Add 1 after your draw step. Skipped chapters don't trigger, and you sacrifice this after 3. So if you don't, this late game, you cast this on 5 mana, your opponent has 1 card in hand and you're pretty sure it's a land, you can just skip number 1 and go straight to number 2. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, and shuffle. You lose 3 life. If you don't need that and there's something in your graveyard that you really want, you can skip all the way to number 3. Put target creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your controls. You can kill your opponents, you can take something from your own, and you can go straight to that. The cards, this whole read ahead mechanic is very, very cool on these new sagas. And the last card is Benalish Sleeper. It's a 2 mana 3/1. It has a kicker of 1 black mana. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, each player sacrifices a creature. So if they have 1 creature that you really need to get rid of, you can use this to get rid of it along with itself, or maybe you sacrifice a legendary creature so you get a token. You can keep the 3/1. Or you can just sacrifice this if your other things are better. The Ratabrick of Urborg is my favorite card, favorite legendary permanent from the set of Dominaria United. Those are my top 5. They come in this order: Balmor, Battle Mage Captain; Torrid, the Avant Fury Rider; Garna, Blood Fist of Keld; Nemata Primeval Warden, and Ratabrick of Urborg. Those are my top 5 legendary creatures in Dominaria United. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and notify. And if you want to, Patreon is down in the description below. Take care. Mr. Pisto to you. Stay safe. Thanks for watching.